Alright, in this video I want to get into more atheist comments and use this as an example of why you need to be as wise as a serpent and as harmless as a dove, and to not cast your pearls before swine and dogs. Right? I'm only engaging with these people because they are engaging with me. And it might get to the point where I have to cut them off one way or another. Like tell them, hey, conversation's done, and if they keep it up and trolling, I'll just have to block them. But as long as conversations are going relatively smooth, which I never expect them to go completely smooth, especially with an atheist, then I'll keep it up just to give them a chance to prove me wrong, right? Because there's always new science coming out, and I may not know anything about it. And some of these atheists may know about what's going on. They may be checking out the magazines and the articles and all that stuff, and they're like, hey, well, this. And they share something that I can look into, and maybe I'm wrong, right? But anyway, in this video, I want to get into why you need to be wise as a serpent, because these guys are subtle. I'm going to show you some things that this fella did that it's you'll have to see it, and you'll understand what I mean when I get there. This first thing I put here is not what I wanted to get into, but this guy I did a video about before, he said that he blocked me, but he's able to reply to me and saying that YouTube is deleting my replies to him, when I don't think that's what it is. So I had to put this up, and he wanted to prove evolution, so I told him, you know what, why don't you evolve from a talking monkey to a man before my eyes, and stop deleting my post and blaming it on YouTube and saying you're blocking me, yet you reply to me. You know, be a man, right? And I assume that's why he was deleting my comments, because I was calling him out in that kind of fashion. But anyway, these first two comments from Robin Dude is what starts this conversation. I actually talked to this guy on another video about atheist comments, which I think have to do with that guy above and what he posted on this video. And he was mocking me a bit there, basically equating not believing in God as like not believing in suck stealing pixies, typical atheist bullshit. And basically also calling me delusional because I have illusions. So yeah, he starts the conversation talking about we can't trust our senses. So if we can't trust our senses, then he can't say anything is an illusion or a delusion. So the conversation couldn't go anywhere from there. But as you can see, this first comment is very long. And if you actually want to check it out, go to the channel, look at it. Or if you can, keep pausing and reading. But there was a lot to go over, and this was basically a lot of fluff. It's a lot of stuff that I've already gone over in videos, already gone over in replies to comments. It's just the same thing over and over. Atheists don't really change. They don't change when new information comes to them. They don't adapt. They're just the same. And you can see it just keeps going and going. And he had to do a part 2. And I'm just going to get into when we actually started talking, but I wanted to show you that he just threw a lot of stuff out here, right? So it was like, you know what, you want me to reply to everything? Because it would take forever, and it would be long little snippets to keep track of each thing that I'm replying to. It was just nonsensical to do that. So I just told him here, I just talked about the first point he made, and about how, well, if you can't trust your senses, then we have no conversation, because you can't trust the science, and you can't build anything up as true because you can't trust your senses in the first place. Everything is an illusion, everything is a mirage, everything's a hallucination. Like, you can't establish what's true if you can't trust your senses, right? But I told him on a serious note, if he wants to take one point at a time, I'll talk to him, because he presented assuming they're not all the same thing, he presented dozens of points, right? I did skim over them and go through them later on, and it was what I said it was. But anyway, we end up talking about the senses and about trusting your senses, right? And if you want, I think you can just go right to the actual video if you want to check out the conversation. I want to get to what was in the middle of it and the end of it, but basically we end up coming to a consensus that we both believe that we can trust our senses enough to establish what is true, right? But there was a thing that he did right above this here. It's sneaky. Okay, right here I say, if you can't trust your senses, you cannot say anything is an illusion or a hallucination, because you don't have anything to say what is real. If you can't trust your senses, you can't say it's real, so you can't call anything an illusion or a hallucination, because how do you know it's not real, right? So then he twists it. See, this is what I mean about being subtle. I say, if you can't trust your senses, you can't say something is an illusion or hallucination. So then he twists it and says, so what is a hallucination or an illusion under the assumption you can completely 100% trust your senses, right? So I was like, hey, you're being subtle here. I see what you're doing here. I'm saying if you can't trust your senses, you can't call them what they are. I say if you can trust your senses, they are illusions and they're hallucinations, right? So that's what I'm saying about watch out for the subtlety of how they like to turn things on you. You got to really keep your wits and pay attention and think about what would a snake do? A snake that doesn't care about truth, doesn't care about right or wrong, how would they manipulate things? You have to think like them in order to protect yourself from them. Like a detective looking for a psychopathic murderer. He tries to think like him to figure out what he's going to do. Not so he can be like him and do what the psychopath does, but to better grasp thinking of that psychopath to catch him. And you need to do that with an atheist, or really just about anybody. But right about here is um, we come to an agreement and we can trust that we said enough. And here he does another little troll thing here. Right here, I say I have nothing proving any beneficial mutations actually add information to the DNA. And he says, you already accept gene duplication as a thing. And it was like, okay, show an example. We already went over this. Like, show an example of new information being added to the DNA, as in new base pairs being added. He shows an example here of something changing in the DNA, but nothing new being added, right? So he's trolling here. He's like, yeah, gene duplication, it adds things. And I was like, yeah, but none of them are ever beneficial. You end up getting stuff like Down syndrome, other crippling defects anytime your DNA is duplicated. Any segment's duplicated and put into the DNA, it causes crippling defects. Mentally, physically, it's not good for you. It's never beneficial. But he just bypasses that and ignores that. And that's where down here I have to say, hey, I have to call him out. You're starting to troll. Because it's like, if you keep that kind of thing up, you know, the conversation is going to be done. I'm not going to be playing games. As long as you can control yourself, control your inner troll, then hey, we can keep this going. But if you can't, I have no problem ending the conversation. No problem whatsoever. And if this guy wanted to keep going, I have no problem blocking him. Right? But he keeps bringing up the E. coli, but there's no new base pairs actually added to the DNA. He's going to show some links. If you want to check them out, you're going to have to go to the actual channel. See, he tries to, again, here is a little bit of trolling as well. The subtlety here. Because in the video I talk about new information being added to the DNA is, as an example, like I think I put in the comments, if you have a creature with 100 base pairs of the DNA, if you get all of a sudden 110 base pairs, you just added new information. Because I admit that the 100 base pairs, you can scramble them up, things are turned on, turned off, you can even lose information so that you only have 90 base pairs or whatever, but there's nothing ever added that actually is beneficial that is able to pass on. That's not science, right? But he tries to make us say, well, yeah, things change in the DNA and this, that. And I was like, yeah, I already admitted that, went over that. Why are you talking about it again? Show something being added to DNA. But you can see he's being a subtle troll here, right? And I basically reply with what I just told you here, right? What I want to get into mainly is towards the end here, because I think we're basically at the point where the tires are just going to spin, right? And again, he says it again, and he tries to say, I apologize if this conversation is frustrating to you. I'm not trying to cause an issue. And that's exactly what these atheists do. They'll troll you and try to pretend that they're being genuine, but it's just to antagonize you because they're narcissistic. They enjoy your attention and they enjoy the ability to manipulate your emotions because it makes them feel powerful and intelligent, because ultimately they feel very insecure and very stupid. So when they are able to use their wit in these subtle ways to manipulate people and get them upset, it makes them feel smart and superior. It makes them feel good. Because you got to get that these people don't have God. They don't have an inner joy from the Holy Spirit. They get their joy from little things like this. That's why their life is spent by wasting their time talking to people like me, because they're trying to get some kind of narcissistic supply. And in a sense, I'm giving this guy a little bit of it by actually communicating with him. That's probably why he keeps going. But anyway, I think we're at the point where the tires are going to start spinning, and it's just going to become trolling and antagonization and all this. But you can see here he brings it up again because remember, it's about beneficial. And he says, so what is gene duplication then? Would not gene duplication be adding more base pairs? And it was like, you missed the last thing I said in the video and the last comment, beneficial. Then you notice he doesn't give any examples because there isn't any, right? So then I said, I believe you're lying because I think he's trying to be frustrating. I think he's trying to troll, right? I tell him, hey, give an example. Give an example of gene duplication that is not harmful to the creature, right? And I told him if he doesn't present that in his next comment, the conversation is done. And if he wants to keep going and talking, especially about some bullshit about him not trolling, then I'm just going to block him, right? He either gets to the point and prove it, or just shut up, right? Because I don't care. I don't care about your trolling, your cry for attention, your need for narcissistic supply. Don't give a shit, right? So anyway, he attempts to do it. Challenge accepted, right? Well, about time, right? About time we're gonna get this, right? So let's look what he gets. If you want to check out the links for yourself, you got to go to the video, the first video on this channel. Here he talks about crops, including cotton and soybean, added new information. You check it out. It's speculation. All of these links are speculation about how it happened in the past. No actual scientific evidence, repeatable experiments showing this actually just happening. It's just something that they assume happened in the past, that had to have happened in the past. But at the same time, you can say the opposite. Oh, what actually happened is we had the soybean with such and such amount of base pairs, and the information was lost. But they say it happened the other way around. The information was gained. You have no way to go either way, right? Same thing he brings up of these insects. A lot of these scientists, they talk about how they speculate how it happened in the past. They don't actually give you science. They give you their speculation and imagination of how they think it might have happened or how it had to have happened for their belief to be true. But they don't actually give you any science. It talks about some trees, right? Same thing. Talks about a pear. Same thing. Speculated. He goes, took me 2 minutes to find this. So it took him 2 minutes to find four, or is it five? 4 articles that he obviously didn't read. He just Googled it. And if he checked them out, he would have saw that they don't actually add new information. They talk about how it had to have happened in the past. We didn't see it happen. We didn't actually experiment with it. We just think this is what happened. That's not science. Because what if I say the opposite? Well, I think the information was lost. That actually fits science. That's what we see. Information's lost. We see the second law of thermodynamics always playing out where things are falling apart. So that would be science to say the opposite happened. But to say this happened and it was beneficial, why would you say something like that? It's never happened before in science that we can observe, but we're going to assume it happened before. That's illogical. That shows somebody lacks common sense and any ability to reason whatsoever. But yeah, so I had to just keep it short. I had to laugh about it. It's just speculation. None of what you showed actually happened. It's just assumed. And like I said, you can just assume the opposite. And this is where he does some fallacy here. Again, he brings up some bogus article here. And this is just a video taunting creationists. So if you want to check out a 4-minute video just being an ass, there you go. But anyway, he was saying, oh, no crime that was not caught on camera has ever been shown to happen. It's speculation. You don't have any grandparents. But see, this is where he's shows how stupid he is. And yes, he's stupid. There's no way around that. You see, murders have happened. Murders have been witnessed in many different fashions. We can see murders happen, right? Killings, murders, assassinations, executions, all these different things happen, right? People videotape it. People who do it describe all the stuff. People confess to it and how they did it, all this stuff. So we got all this information about murder and how it's done, and we got a good idea about these things, right? So when you come to a crime, it's not speculation about what happened. You know somebody was murdered. Maybe it was an accident, maybe it was out of rage, maybe it was just because the guy's sick and enjoys killing. You don't know the motive. You don't know if it was, oh, I stabbed him and now I'm going to get in trouble. It was an accident, but nobody's going to believe me, so I'm just going to kill him. We don't know what's going on there. You can speculate about that, but hey, this guy's dead, and from the wounds and everything, it looks like he was murdered, right? Because you can judge it by other actual murders, right? But ultimately, it's speculation about who did it. If there's no eyewitnesses, you have nothing other than a dead body. Yes, who did it is speculation. You can try to put all the evidence to say this person was there and could have done it, but you can't 100% say anybody actually did it without eyewitnesses, right? But when you try to say, oh, this tree evolved and added new information, that's never been seen to happen before, where the offspring get new information, new base pairs added to the DNA, more base pairs in the DNA for the children. This has never happened in a way that's beneficial. I got to correct that because it has happened, but it's never happened beneficially. Every time things are added, So if it has 100 base pairs in the DNA, anytime it has more than 100 base pairs, it's been harmful. So if that's the evidence we got, that's the only thing we ever see, why say the opposite? Why imagine that the opposite happened? There's no evidence, there's no reason to believe that. Same thing, we got great grandparents is speculation. Well, people have great grandparents alive who watch their children's children have children. And we watch people have children. And that everybody who's alive has parents. It's not speculation. We can see this. We can test it. This is a repeatable experiment. What you're saying is not a repeatable experiment. It's just pure speculation and imagination. It's a joke. You can believe it if you want to, but it's not science. So that's basically what I had to say right there, and quickly added to his links, because I replied to what he said and then checked out his links and replied to that. But this is where the tires start to spin. You see, he cannot provide anything to show that new information was ever added to DNA. He can provide speculation and imagination about it, but he can't provide actual evidence that it happened. Right? And since he can't do that, he basically has to either accept that his belief is by faith, which he's not going to do, because to him faith is a dirty word, or he just has to deny the evidence and accept, what he is, which is just, I don't know if there's a word for it. Somebody who just believes whatever they want to believe because they want to believe it. Is there a word for that? I don't know. I would think dumbass or blind, something like that. They're either really stupid or they're really blind. They just can't see things. There's some kind of blockage in the eyes, in the mind, somewhere that they just can't see the truth. They can't digest it in their mind. They can't figure it out. That, or they're just, like I said, stupid. You might think both are the same thing, but I don't see them as the same thing, because some people, there's something they can't see it. And there's other people, I say they're stupid because they can see it, but they just deny it. They ignore it, like, no. And to me, that's just stupid. Maybe it's a mixture of both. Maybe there's things they can't really see and grasp because they're blinded to it, and then there's a mixture of things that they can see that they're just stupid. They're just ignoring it. But yeah, this is where the tires are going to start spinning, because I'm not going to take speculation and imagination as actual science. So this guy, he's going to, keep trying to push it, and it's not going to go anywhere. And I'm not going to change him. I know this. I'm not going to get him to admit he's believing what he's believing by faith. I'm not going to get him to realize that what he believes is bullshit. So yeah, here's where the tires start to spin. That's why I decided to do video now. I was waiting for the conversation to be done, and there might just be a little bit left to this conversation, a little bit of life left, but generally, I'm pretty sure the tires are going to spin here. I've talked to a lot of atheists over the years, and this kind of conversation is the best it really is going to get. You force them to stop trolling. For the most part, you can't completely do it. They still try to do it, and they'll try to do it subtly because they think they're super smart and clever. And they need to do it. They can't help it. It's the only way to make themselves feel good about themselves, is to antagonize somebody else. And then they'll go talk about what they did with their other atheist friends to get a boost from them too, and be like, wow, that was clever, that was funny, ha ha ha. I wish I could have been there, joined in the conversation, da 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 da, all that stupid shit. But this is the best it usually gets. right? And this is basically why you shouldn't really engage them in conversation, because you cannot do to them or for them. You really can't. It's hopeless for you to do anything anyway. I mean, of course you can pray, and the Holy Spirit can work on anybody, but ultimately, if you're going to engage with them because they engage with you, like what I'm doing here, uh, don't expect anything fruitful. You can present, you could, like I said, I gave an example. Like I got these little rings in my hand, right? They're for a ring binder, right? And you can hear them. Just assume I'm telling you the truth, right? I got these little rings in my hand, and you can actually show them it. This is what it's like talking to an atheist. The the conversation can be about if you actually have the rings in your hand, right? But this is not over a computer. This is face to face. You can show them that they're in your hand, and they won't accept it. And your whole goal would be to get them to accept it, but they're not going to. They see them, they know you have them, but they don't care. They think it's fun to get you frustrated and worked up trying to convince them of something that's true that they know is true, but they just don't care. And they think it's funny that you're stupid enough to think that they do care. And they just laugh about it, and then they'll laugh about it with their friends as well, if they have any. So don't do it. As you can see here, that's what I'm doing. I'm like, hey, look, I got the rings. And they're like, no, you don't. And you just become like children. Yeah, I do. No, you don't. Uh-huh. Nah, yeah, nah, yeah, nah. That's what the conversation turns into. And you become a little child, and then you just start verbally punching each other in the face. It's just stupid. It's a waste of time, right? But I think I'll end the video with another a little joke here. This is the guy I was talking to before, right? But check this out. This is the silliness. Because I think I made a video about him. That's why he's not deleting his comments, and I think he wants me to delete his comments because he's deleting mine. I think that's what he's hoping for. Because here's what I put a response, and then I was calling him out and go, hey, you want to show actual scientific evidence? Because all he does is make claims. He doesn't present any science. He just basically says, well, I said it, so it's true, right? I was telling him, prove evolution, be a man, evolve from a talking monkey to a man. He starts deleting, and I put it up again. He deleted it. So I said, you don't think I know you're deleting my responses to you? And he says, I blocked you. I'm not wasting time deleting your post. It is an option on YouTube menu. Complain there. And I was like, if you blocked me, how are you seeing my comment to reply to me? So you can see what I mean about the lies. I was like, how is this happening if I'm blocked? I wanted to test it again. If I'm blocked, how are you seeing this? He's like, I was surprised as well. Just know that I have not been deleting your posts. In fact, I want everybody to see your fallacies, reasoning. I blocked you again. Right? So it was like, wait, you blocked me, then you unblocked me? That's how you saw my comments, and now you're blocking me again? And then I was like, I smell BS. And my comments would be deleted like within the day. It seemed like within the hours. My comment was deleted. So this comment where I say I smell BS is still up. So YouTube's not deleting him. This guy's deleting him, saying he blocked me when he didn't. So I think he's doing that because he knows he looks like a fool. He's not getting his narcissistic supply. So he's like, oh man, I hope he just deletes my comments, because you gotta get that these atheists, like I said, they feel stupid. They feel very insecure. And if they get into a conversation where they don't have the upper hand, or even if the conversation is going smooth, it's even, right? You're just kind of talking. They hate it because they always have to have the upper hand, or they just eats them up inside. it makes them feel inferior and weak, and it just plays onto their insecurity and their stupidity. So they have to do something, right? And if they're proven that they are not that smart, like this guy, he doesn't try to bring evidence, facts, science, doesn't bring any of that. He just brings his claims, hoping that's enough, enough to trick, to manipulate, to get a rise. It doesn't work. Then he does a little bit of trolling and mocking and stuff, and that doesn't work. Like, oh, I want everybody to see your fallacies. I'm blocking you again, right? And what he's saying is, uh, I hope you delete my comments the way I deleted yours, so that you get revenge, so nobody sees my fallacious reasoning, right? I'm not even sure if he really blocked me. I think if he really blocked me, I can't even see his comments. I think so. That's why I'm saying this guy's just full of shit. But that's an atheist for you. That's generally what you're going to get. They are all pretty much plagued with narcissism. And that's what happens to people when they don't have God. They become narcissists. They're just empty. They're not filled with, they're held together by God. They're just slowly falling apart, and they try to deceive themselves as if they're getting better and the world's getting better, and as if they're going to last forever. And they need these little things where they talk to the people on the other side. They want to make it seem as though their side is better, right? So they talk to people who believe in God, and if they can get a rise out of them and get them all worked up, they feel good about themselves. Like, hey, God's not with this person. How was I just a man without God, able to get a rise out of these people and get them to manipulate it and to do what I want and all this? There's no God with them, and it makes them feel better about the position they're in. But yeah, but to really know this, you would have to be around a lot of atheist friends. I got atheist family members, atheist friends, and at a point in my life, I was an atheist. So I would do a lot of these things, and I know how it felt. And I get the reasoning behind my family and friends. I get the reasoning that I had, and now I can share it. And that's why I don't get too worked up with these guys, because I know they're just trying to feed. They need something. And if they don't get it, they'll start acting more and more obnoxious, and they make an ass out of themselves, and then they just feel bad about it if they don't get a reaction. You see, these people, they will act in this crazy, crazy way, right? Because they want a reaction from you, like that guy deleting my comments and saying I'm blocked, because he wants to get a reaction out of me, right? He wants me to do the same thing, right? He wants me to block him, delete his comments, or act a fool myself. Because if I do that, it makes him feel better. But see, the thing is, if you don't react in that way, it makes them feel even worse, because they couldn't get that reaction out of you, and they just made an ass out of themselves for nothing. And now it just ends with them not only being defeated with logic and reasoning, but then when they jump to their next step of just being a total ass of a troll, they got nothing for it. It's like going to your work and not getting paid, and you actually have to have money taken from you. You have to pay to work, because they lose any bit of ego that they have. The ego that tells them that they're smart and they're good and they're better and what have you. That is taken away from them, because they act like a total obnoxious ass, and you just sit there and let them sit in that, and they're like, have to focus on that. They can't focus on your response. They can't focus on how you reacted and that you acted the same way. they get to focus on themselves because they're narcissists. That's why you should look into NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. It's a real thing, and once you see it, you'll notice that a lot of people have these traits. It doesn't mean they're narcissists, but atheists have a shitload of the traits, and they're basically all narcissists. And they have enough of the traits where even if they can be cured, they might as well just be thrown in the same category as narcissists because they hang around so many other narcissists that the tendencies rub off and they act just like them and think just like them. So anyway, I just wanted to end the video here, especially like with this to the atheists here. Show me evolution. Go from a talking monkey to a man, right? Because that's the only way to prove it. You all just act like a bunch of animals. Not impressed. I think it's funny that some of them go, talking ape, not a monkey. And that just shows the stupidity of an atheist because they're still not a man. And if you can't tell the difference between an ape and a man, but you can tell the difference between a monkey and an ape, you got some issues. You can't see the differences there. Ape and a monkey are closer together than an ape and a man. But yeah, these people, not all that bright. Not all that bright at all. But don't get worked up by them because you spend too much time. Eventually, they're gonna get to you. You know, they're gonna get you worked up. You're gonna get bored with their nonsense. You know, it's like dealing with a 5-year-old child that's just constantly going through a temper tantrum and their parents won't do anything about it. Yeah, you can have patience and you can deal with it, but not forever. Eventually, you're going to have to get away or tell the child. You might lash out and say, shut the fuck up. And you're like, oh, man. And they say, oh, look at this. This Christian yelled out and cursed. Oh, and then they're going to focus on that. Matter of fact, they might actually focus on that I said that as an example. He said a bad word at the end of the video. And they'll go on and on about that, right? And that's their evidence that there's no God, right? But anyway, thanks for watching and take care. Alright, in this video, I want to basically talk about the end of this conversation with Robin Dude. Like I said, the tires started to just spin and go nowhere. So that's what I figured, would happen, because atheists will not ever admit the truth. They're not going to admit they're wrong. It's just not something they're going to do, at least not in front of you and to your face. So, don't expect that. You're going to get some trolling, and that's kind of how this kind of ended here. He was using a metaphor, and that's where you see me reply, your metaphor is not something I see in the article, and that's what I'm going to get into. Because he shared a bunch of, I'm not going to say a bunch, I don't know how much a bunch would be, but he sent like 4 or 5 articles trying to show that new information is added to DNA. And what that means is, let's say you have 100 base pairs in the DNA, you would have more than 100 base pairs in the DNA with its offspring, the children that come from the living creature. If they have more base pairs and it's not harmful, well, then you just proved everything I said was wrong, and you actually have a foundation for evolution where things can become better and more complicated and more diverse. Yet, what we actually see is the law of thermodynamics being played out where everything is falling apart, right? Well, in those articles, they speculated about, these trees have such and such amount of information in the DNA, and these ones have more. So we think that over such and such amount of time, that those trees ended up becoming these trees. And they spec in the other articles did basically the same thing, but with insects, and I don't remember what the other ones were, but they were basically all doing the same thing. It's not science, it's speculation and imagination. Because in order to see that and to really say that's what happened without speculating and imagining, you would have to take the tree or any other plant or the insect, whatever it is, and you would have to know how much information's in their DNA. So you look at their base pairs they got. I say it's 1,000. I know it can get into millions and billions, and I think some maybe even more. But let's just keep it simple. Let's just say they have 1,000 base pairs in the DNA. You would have to, with that tree, you would have to look at the seed, and when it produces another tree, and see what it gets going on in the DNA. The same thing with the insect. The same thing with any living creature, right? You'd have to look to see, hey, oh, it's direct offspring. Do these have more base pairs in the DNA? And then you have to go, okay, well, what other plant did it actually germinate with, right? So was it with a tree that is it able to mix with a different species that has more base pairs in it, so that that's how it happened? Is it the same tree that it germinated with that had the same amount of base pairs? You have to figure those kind of things out. So what this guy was showing is that he had nothing. So he shared a video that was kind of more of a mocking, like you weren't there kind of thing, one of those typical atheist videos. So I really didn't give this guy attention when he shared things, because he obviously either has no idea what the hell I'm talking about, even though I keep going over it over and over and over again. So either he's like really slow, which I don't really have the patience for, or he's just trolling and just pretending to be, a dumbass, which is usually what atheists will do. Is they'll troll you and annoy you and test your patience. So I recommend not doing it. But anyway, this article was one of the longer ones, and I admit I skimmed through it looking to see if there's anything in there about the base pairs and more information being added, but there wasn't anything I could find there. And he brought up a metaphor, and I was like, that's not something I'm actually seeing, right? And he asked the question about, well, when there's gene duplication, does it not add information to the DNA, more base pairs? And this is my response right here. I say, off the top of my head, I can't think of one, but there has never been a duplication that added base pairs that did not cause harm, so there is no reason to believe this one did. This E. coli would be an example of a gene duplication that didn't add base pairs, right? And this is his response here. He just quotes half of what I said, not even half, and says there is no reason to think this gene duplication does not lead to increased base pairs. And I just said, why, right here? What do you mean there's no reason? I just gave you one. But he cut it off. So I was like, you know what, you're trolling. I'm just going to end the conversation here and make a video about it. He did reply, but he was basically just trying to get me to engage, and just keep repeating myself over and over again, which is pretty much what I've been doing, and I've been being patient about it. But I was telling myself, as soon as my patience wears out, just walk away, because I can see what's going on here. He's just dragging this out, and I was hoping to actually get some information out of it, or get this guy to see that there's no new information that's ever added. He even tried to twist to say that, oh, the scrambling of the information or the change of the information there is new information. He's like, no, nothing new is added. You just changed what was already there. So yeah, you got something new, but not new added. You just changed what was already there, right? So anyway, let's go through this. I'm going to put the link for this in the info box. If I forget or something, please remind me, or you can check out the first video on this channel that has the conversation with that Robin dude guy, and you can find the link there. He posted it a few times. But this is about the E. coli, right? I'm going to really go over a little bit of this. Not going to read through all of this. It's very detailed. What I want to come back and focus on is right here, the genome sequences and phylogeny. So I'm just going to go through some of this real quick so you get if you want, you can pause, take a look. But a lot of this is, talking about the E. coli, how many generations, freezing some of the generations. If you had a generation, they'll take some and they'll freeze them for later to test them compared to, generations later on or generations in the past. So they were doing all kinds of cool things like that. And yeah, so you can, if you want, you can read about what they were doing. And you can see that they talk about a hypothesis. So it's not like, hey, this is what is going on. And, some more diagrams. You can see it's, I guess, fairly lengthy. I guess the pictures stretch it out. But let's, this is probably something I would focus on later, again with the sequencing and phylogeny. But I just want to show you all the information that's here. And the thing you gotta worry about is like the language, and it's a lot thrown at you. And you just gotta be able to grasp the lingo and know what to look for, right? I just want to show you that I'm not trying to hide anything here. I talk about, mutations and duplications and testing the DNA from the frozen ones, ones from the past, present. They noticed that after a while they were able to digest something new, right? So let's go back up here. And they give you a little bit of a detail of what they saw here. It says, we sequenced 29 clones sampled at various generations from population era 3, right? It says mutations included single nucleotide polymorphism, as well as deletions. Insertions and some chromosomal rearrangements were identified. Right? Now, when you go through this, you're not going to find anything really about the base pairs that it had and how that increased. But like right here, they found deletions, insertions, and rearrangements. Right? So there's nothing here to get you to believe that there's more information added, because what they found was a lot of actual deletions. And sometimes that's what happens that allows a living organism to do something different. This guy wanted to say, oh, the only way these organisms can have a new feature is if they add information. But there's actually a bacteria that can digest nylon, but it actually has a degradation of its enzymes that it uses to digest whatever it was it ate. And that degradation allows it to actually now digest nylon, which is pretty interesting. But that shows an example of losing information but gaining a new function, right? So you can like scramble the information and get a new function as well. You don't have to add new or more information to get a new function. Yeah, if you want, like I said, I'm going to put this in the link in the description. I'll put the link in the description. And if you want to go through it, go ahead. But this would be the first ever scientific evidence of more base pairs being added, but there's nothing in here actually stating that. But yeah, that's that. Kind of done with that conversation. You know, there's sometimes you got a little bit of hope that, hey, something's going to get through, but then you just got to be like, okay, well, you know, I got other things to do. This is not going anywhere. The tire's just spinning. I was hoping, you know, fight a little bit, we'll get it out of the mud. But no, it's stuck in the mud. That tire's just going to spin. So I'm just going to hoof it from here. So thanks for watching and take care.